Hello everyone, it's finally Sunday again and I'm excited to share this week's progress on my VR medieval life simulator. Although I didn't get as far as I hoped, I do have a few cool things to share. First up, you've probably noticed this new house in the background. It's here for testing purposes only and I will remove it once the building system is in place. I spent most of the week working on a workstation that feels natural to have indoors, a table for making ropes called the rope maker. I know I didn't mention the rope maker last week, but to skin animals I need a knife, and to make a knife I need thread which is made on this table, so I had to tackle this first. I also did mention a building and object placement system, and this table felt like a good candidate for our first placeable object. And I didn't just import it from my old project. I made major improvements to the 3D model, updated the texturing, added sound effects, I smoothed out the spinning animation and optimized the code. So here's a quick look at the old rope maker compared to the new one. See how much smoother the thread animation is now? The old version was using Euler angles for tracking rotation, which caused issues with rotations over 360 degrees. I switched it to quaternions to fix that, and I'm really happy with the improvement. My 3D modeling and texturing skills are also not that great, so it took me a few hours to make it look like this. I also added items that are needed for this workstation. So we now have fibers, thread reels and ropes. The fibers looked pretty rough in the old version, so I'm glad they're looking much better now. One of my friends told me that it kinda looks like bread now, but this was my reference image, so let me know what you think. If too many people say it looks like bread, then I might have to change it, but personally I'm quite happy with how it turned out. After finishing the rope maker, I decided to add a new step in the rope making process. Breaking flax fibers. I created the model for a flax break, which will process flax into usable fibers. It's not functional yet, but it will be soon. Here's how a flax break works in real life. And that's exactly how it's gonna work in the game. Once that's in place, I think the rope making process will be pretty much exactly the same as in real life. So I'm really interested to know what you guys think about it. Please let me know in the comments. As promised, I added a basic deer skinning feature. For now, if you hit a deer with a knife a few times, it will spawn the hide and remove the body. It's just a placeholder and definitely not the final version. I'm not a fan of the body just disappearing, and I plan to refine this to make it look more realistic, but for now, this setup at least lets us collect the hide, so I can start working on a tanning rag soon. Later on I will also add meat and bones to the loot. The knife that I used for skinning isn't craftable yet, but my goal is for it to be made from a small stick, a stone and a thread. Speaking of small sticks, I also added the ability to break sticks, so small sticks can be obtained by breaking large ones. To break them, all you need to do is grab on each end and press the trigger. It's a very small detail, but it kind of feels satisfying. When it comes to using thread in crafting, I don't just want to add it to the object. I'm planning to make it interactive, where the player physically wraps the thread around the item, similar to how it works in Green Hell. This is something I'll focus on soon to add a bit more immersion to crafting. I also experimented with item stacking in the backpack. I copied over some code from the old project, but ultimately I decided to rebuild it from scratch to make it cleaner and more efficient. It's not functional yet, but for now at least I made sure all items are nicely scaled and centered in their slots. Finally, last week I also mentioned tree chopping, and I did consider just importing it over, but I realized I wanted to redesign how the whole wood processing system works, so I'll have to rewrite most of the code, and unfortunately this week was not long enough for me to even start on it. I realized this week's progress might seem a bit light, but I've been working hard to polish each element. And this got me thinking about the devlog schedule. Weekly updates put some pressure on me, and I don't want to rush features just to have content ready for Sunday, as this could compromise quality. So I'm considering switching to longer devlogs every 2 weeks, or maybe just posting a short once in a while if I don't have enough content for a full devlog. Please let me know what you think. Do you like the current length and frequency, or would you prefer more technical breakdowns on development process? I'd love to hear your thoughts and what kind of content you enjoy most. That's everything for today. Thank you for watching. I appreciate your support. Don't forget to share your feedback in the comments, and if you're new, please consider subscribing to stay updated. I'll see you in the next devlog.